In this series, A Heart Called Home, we are now venturing from a heart called home to ourselves into a heart called home to our marriage. And I couldn't think of anything better than to share with you my personal story of how I came to turning my life and my marriage around, what happened there, how I learned the things that I've spent the last decade growing through and continue to do so. And today, I just want to give you all those resources and to share my story and my heart with you. Can I just say how thankful I am that you are here with me right now? Thank you. Thank you for having this time together. I greatly appreciate it. Okay, so girl, if you have listened to especially the last episode, which was my interview with Andy Locke, talking about our biological needs as women and how we have culturally completely been neglecting them and being told to live the opposite, which is why we are so confused and burnt out and frustrated and upset and feel like so out of whack. Yeah, it just blows my mind. Well, in it, you heard me pepper a couple stories of, I'll just say is like my origin stories to how I came to the work that I do now. And I just thought how I just really wanted to share with you more about that because we learn through stories. We learn by listening to each other, by being in circle together, and we learn through stories. So, I mean, every great culture knew that. Every culture, large and small, knew that and passed these stories down. Okay, so here's mine. Once upon a time, I was wickedly unhappy. And I was so, so blasted confused because I really thought that going by the playbook, my life was like I was hitting everything. I was doing a great job, I thought. And yet I was so miserable. What does that look like? Okay, it looked like I was working full time. I was self-employed. And this was I just want to back it up a little bit. How did I get in that position as a family, having a husband and a wife, me in that position? It was basically because I pushed my way into that role. I My husband, let's see. I don't know. I love him so much. I want to respect his privacy as well. But through my husband's work, previous work, when we got together, a lot of things were dictated that were not in our control. And it wasn't just like I had hardships because we were kind of jerked around by his, the schedule was so, hmm, that you didn't really know when are you getting off work? Oh, I don't know. When do you have to go in tomorrow? Well, probably pretty early. Are you going to be working the weekends? Maybe. And anyway, it was just really ridiculous when you didn't feel like you had any ownership over your life. And again, that's how I felt. But how did he feel? I mean, he was the one being jerked around more than me. And yet I was so self-consumed that I was the one suffering all the hardship. Okay. So this was his job. And finally, when his term was coming to a close, um, we'd been living with that job for several years, and I was angry and hurt. I felt upset, and I felt that I really deserved to exercise all my talents. You know, I was at home and I was raising our first child. And I felt really alone because my husband's work took him away from home so much. And we didn't have a good network set up. Um, I would say that's really my responsibility. I did not work hard enough to set up a good network. I was also young. I mean, youngish. I was in my late 20s. And Anyway, so through that time, I I had a hardened heart, that's for sure. And I also felt like my life was slipping away from me. Girls, I'm just going to be so honest. And and in that, I felt I was raised by a mother who was very, she was always ambitious. She always sought out her career opportunities and excelled at them. And she had a lot of pride in, and for good reason, in the careers that she created for herself. And she was very driven. And I watched her as a successful woman in the business world in her careers. And that was what was modeled and what was shown, taught was do good in school so that you can have a good career and so that you don't have to live hand to mouth or struggle financially and follow the yellow brick road and do all the things, and that will lead to a happy life. I didn't really see that reflected in my upbringing, the happy life part. Despite, I mean, in the grown-ups didn't really seem that happy. But this was the script, right? I'm sure like you girls are mostly like me and had that modeled as well. And so, you do your best and you're a good girl and you follow those examples. And I remember the thing that was so pushed and it's hard to argue against it is that you should always do your best and that you should use the talents that are given you to the best of your abilities. And because if you don't, you're kind of letting God down because he gave them to you and he expects you to utilize them and for his glory. So, raising up in a strong Christian family, that was kind of the thing. So what I do was I grew up and joined the circus, pretty much. It wasn't really the circus, but I became an actress. So pretty close, pretty close. I created my own circus. And it's our anyway. So with that, I knew that I had a lot of capabilities. My mom was so supportive and encouraging of all of our talents as kids, and we just took a lot of pride in seeing us shine. And hey, I had a sure had a lot of pride in my shining too. And I really wanted to utilize my gifts. I often felt like still the same thing, like a racehorse. And I just wanted to run. I wanted to do my thing. I wanted to go out there and create and make. Did that necessarily mean I was going to be wildly successful? No, but I just had the energy to go and do it and make it happen. And that's just part of me. I know not everybody's like that. Uh, this is my story. So here you go. So with that, when the opportunity came up where he was getting out of that one job and we just kind of shrugged and like, well, what's next? Well, we don't know. And so it was whoever came up with something first and it was a viable career, then the other would come in support of that. Well, here I was chomping at the bit, almost quite literally, and I started a photography business. And so it took off. It was working, and much to my husband's surprise and to mine as well. It was like, wow, how I don't know how people are finding me, but that's so cool. How great. And so I took something that was, let's talk about photography, girls, because this is a hobby business that a lot of us like to pick up. And it's just like anything. I just had a friend who she started a small business after we talked a lot about it, the struggle of being a stay-at-home mom and trying to run a business on the side. It's it's really hard and doesn't really make us happy, really, in the end. And here's the journey. You're listening to it. So anyway, I with photography we think, oh, this is a little something I can do on the side and it'll be fun. When we take a hobby and we turn it into a career, most often we're doing it from a this is like business class right now. We're doing it from a masculine perspective and our masculinity really. And we're approaching it the way a man would, which is you have to push, push, push. You have to hustle, hustle, and you've got to just work on your marketing and all these things that you have to. The modern business mindset is a very masculine mindset. And women, we can enter into this and everything, and we can kick butt at it. We can do really, really well. The trouble is, and this is going to be like the point of my whole story, is that when we stay in our masculine, we cannot have those nourishing, supportive, delicious, adoring, romantic relationships that we deep down in our entire being crave to have with men. We can't, because men don't want that with a woman who's acting like a man. And that you might get your feathers all ruffled up hearing that, but it's just the gosh darn truth. Just like a wimpy guy, a guy who is just meh, like I don't know, some beta male, is not going to turn you on. Is not going to be like, you just can't wait to have him get home and just wrap yourself around him when he's, I don't know, maybe kind of passive aggressive. I'm just going to sit here and just do nothing, scroll on my phone and like, no, that's not going to turn you on. Just as a woman acting like a man is not going to turn a guy on. So that's the trap. The trap that I got into was being taught that I'm supposed to act like a man so that I'm successful, when really it destroyed my marriage. It destroyed my relationship. It destroyed me. Oh my gosh. I took something I loved and I thought it was really fun, a hobby, photography, and I went, I'm going to make this a business. And I did. And I pushed hard and I drank a lot. I drank a lot trying to survive all of my stress and all of my marriage stress and all of the stress I was putting upon myself because of social media and comparison. You're constantly like, well, why does that photographer have all these clients? And how come I don't even know where my next job is coming from? Even when I was making, I remember one particular year, six-figure year. It was amazing. We were like broke. It's like, where did all of that money go? We weren't happy. I was working a ton. I was away from my children and my house and my marriage a lot. But just because I made the sparkly six figures, it did not mean that I was really successful. Like on a career level, if you were to look at everything on paper, it's like, yeah, kicking butt. Whoa, way to go, boss babe. But I was miserable. And so was my husband. And I'm sure, so were my children. I was so disconnected. I remember when my daughter, so at the time we had two children. Well, gosh, no, this whole thing went on until I had gave birth to my fifth child. Well, it was really my fourth child. But anyway, so at the time, no, we had already had three kids at the time, I think. Anyway, my oldest daughter was six, I think, and we were at someone's house and she had an accident with their little dog. Was acting like he was a teddy bear. I love you so much. Squeezed the dog so hard the dog bit her in the lip. It was sad. We didn't have tiny ducks, so she didn't know. Anyway, so off to the ER we went just in case, and because it bit a hole right through her lip. So my husband drops me off to go back home to get paperwork or whatnot. And I'm sitting there in the ER with my daughter, the quiet, set aside little waiting room. And I look at her and I realize that even though I am working from home and I'm at the house a lot and I take our kids out and did fun things and took pictures of them and we made memories, I did not know who that little girl was. And I died inside when I realized how self-absorbed, how disconnected from motherhood that I was as a woman to my own child. And that woke up something in me. Well, not enough to make any big changes because I honestly felt stuck. How do you go from being, you know, the breadwinner to then not when there's a big transition? Someone else has to, cover down on it. And that was a huge conversation. I didn't think that we were ready for. And I wasn't ready to let go. I was so, I was so prideful, thinking that I was so necessary to the world to keep taking people's pictures. Like heavens above. I had a lot of pride in the quality of the work that I did and in what I was bringing to our family and what I was creating as a person. My value was dead set on what I could build in the world. And I did not realize what a lie I had swallowed because my worth was exactly what my husband had been trying to tell me all those years. He kept telling me, I don't care what you do. And what he really meant was, even though I was like, how, excuse me? Do you know what I'm doing here? Do you know how good I am at my job? And what he meant was, I care. I just want you for being you, just being. He did not care about my doing. And there's so much, girls, that I'm going to share with you that I learned eventually, and I'm so glad that I did. All of there's so much unlearning and so much relearning. And this is why I have this podcast so that I can share what I have gotten with you. Anyway, so I still was just sure that my value was on what I did, not about who I was, just about being. I can't, no, no, my value is using my talents, putting them into the world. What am I creating out there? How much money can I command for my services or my products or whatever it is? And I was trapped in that thinking. It was so damn stressful. Life was so stressful, even in trying to sit down and be present in the moment. And I started meditating. I started listening to a bunch of different spiritual things, and I'd gone back and forth about going to church and getting a relationship back with Jesus, and I was trying all sorts of things, and nothing helped because the root of it was this framework that I was living in was a total sham and a total lie and totally against my biology. I remember giving birth to our fourth child, my second daughter, fourth child, and I had a wedding booked. And I had asked them, again, I was still the breadwinner. I'd asked the couple if they wanted to switch out a photographer, like, I give them a refund for their deposit. They could book someone else. No, no, we really, if it's possible, we really want you. Like, okay. 6 days after birthing my baby at home with my midwives, I pumped breast milk and left her with my husband and the other children. And I was away for 8 hours shooting a wedding. During the wedding, I would stop. I stopped at the mealtime and I pumped. I had been leaking through my shirt. My breasts were so engorged. And I was sure that I was leaking past all of the breast pads and showing milkage through my attire. And it was, and I was still achy because, I just birthed the baby 6 days ago and changing out my pads. And I got home and sobbed as I held my infant that I had to leave her for, I know it was just 8 hours, but what it felt like was abandonment. It felt like abandonment. And I know a lot of mamas haven't been as lucky as me to at least generally be home with their babies, that they have to find some kind of child care, infant care, while they go back to work 8 weeks after giving birth, 8, 12, I don't know what they give women. And they feel like it's a death of that separation, but that's just what we do. That's just what's expected. You know, your career must go on. It is so vital. Oh my gosh. I wish I could shove that up somebody's butt. That big, stinky lie of abandoning our children for dollars. And I understand. I totally understand because I lived that for how many kids? 4 kids. I lived that through 4 children that I was fortunate enough to be able to hand them over to their dad. But still, I mean, God bless the man, but he's a man. And I tell you what, we are not created the same. A man cannot take care of a baby the way that its mama can. That's just a fact. And when, I mean, you get that. My husband got this all the time. He would go take the kids to the park. He was an incredible dad, getting them outside. He would go take them on stroller runs. He would let them go ride their bikes. He was so helpful in getting them active and out and playing. But nobody wanted to talk to a stay-at-home dad. When there was a dad at a park, the women would just like shut off. I mean, thank you, girls. Thank you. Thank you for respecting my man. But at the same time, my kids wanted to have friends. They wanted to form relationships. And so thankfully, there wasn't a floozy on the playground who wanted to like exchange digits with my husband, for a wink wink so that our kids could play together. But at the same time, like how hard was it for our kids? Because no woman felt safe approaching a man and exchanging numbers so that their kids could play together. Like that just felt like a line was being crossed. And so because of that, because our kids were unschooled, homeschooled, and we just didn't have a structure set up for support or other, and even after I came back home and let go of working full time and invested, like I'm the kid person now, like I'm designed to be. And even after I took over full time with the kids, I would try, like our kids are getting there, like playing tag together and hey, where's that mom? Okay, that mom. Okay. Hey, oh, we'll be here next Thursday if you guys want to have a play date. And we did find some people, but it was like pulling teeth getting people to try to be friends. It's hard. Why the heck is it so hard to make friends now? Even now with where we are, I'm not meaning to complain, but I'm just stating, I think we have an issue. We have a community issue where it's just really hard to connect with other people. Is it because we're too busy? Is it because our schedules are so packed? Is it because everybody else is getting so much social time because they're all in school? Like, I don't know. I don't know. I think we have just simply absorbed the idea that we are meant to be atomized and that we are not meant to be a collective. And in that, I mean, I bet you, like me, have lived in a neighborhood where you don't know the people that live across the street from you. We lived back in our previous, where we lived before this, we lived in a cul-de-sac, 5 houses, that's it. That's it. And it wasn't until we lived there for 12 whole years. And we hardly knew our neighbors. We knew one on the left because anyway, for the most part, like we barely remembered their names. We're living in a cul-de-sac. Come on, people. What is with this? Thanks to my husband though, we made a conscious effort we brought back the block party in our neighborhood. And from that, we started connecting with neighbors. This is such a tangent. Hold on, girls. Hold on. We'll get back. But I started a neighborhood newsletter because I wanted to foster more community. We'd lived here for maybe 3 or 4 years by that time. Now it's been 6 years. And still, we just didn't really know a lot of people. And the people in this region seem to be they're friendly, but it is a hard barrier to get through to try to make friends. So I was like, okay, well, if these people aren't doing anything, I'm going to make it happen. And so I made this newsletter. I would interview someone in our neighborhood or who touched our neighborhood, like our mail lady, and and so the backside would be the interview with someone, and we learned some incredibly cool things, amazing stories about people that just lived a couple doors down. We never would have known otherwise. And then on the other side were announcements and activities. I planned monthly like little workshops and times to either gather or share or learn something. And it was pretty fun. That was pretty fun. So we did that for about a year. So the kids and I would go around the neighborhood and deliver them to all 90 houses, and that was a good workout. So my point is that that's the kind of connection and the community building that I think we used to have, but that you think of like the 60s or the 70s when you think about that kind of community connection. Anyway, so so here I was with 4 children. Ooh, this was the rich part of the story. We're getting to like the real good stuff. I began to feel so burnt out, uninspired. Taking photography, something that I loved, and I would just kind of nerd out on like different ideas, and I would be really daring with some concepts or different angles to try, and that would be invigorating to getting to such a dry place where I didn't care. I don't know, like here are 2 locations, pick one, great, see you then. And that was sad, but deep inside of me, I it just felt like I was dying inside. Again, our marriage, my husband, he was so unhappy. I was so unhappy because I wasn't getting any of my needs met, and he wasn't getting any of his needs met. But I thought I was doing everything right. I really did. I was working hard. I was showing up. I was cooking meals. I was trying to be there with the kids, trying to invest more. And at the same time, I felt in my soul that there was something bigger and deeper and so much more meaningful that I was meant for. Something far beyond just taking people's pictures. God, or like I was also commercial acting, and I really really enjoyed that. There's something, you get good at a skill like playing soccer, and then you get to do that at a higher level, and you're like, yeah, it feels really good. Well, I felt that way about acting as well, and I just got so sick of pushing other people's stuff, their products, their ideas, their businesses. Like, I feel like there's something bigger for me. I spent a year searching high and low in meditation. I sought out counselors. I sought out a psychic. I sought out mentors to help me through this period and did the deep soul searching. And I was pregnant at the time with Truly, our fourth child, then went through her birth, which was incredible. I can't wait to tell you that story. Wow, that was an incredible home birth. And then I get to a point where, oh, here's where Kelly's fantastic pride rears its totally ugly head. Other photographers that I'd kind of come up with, they were doing retreats in Bali. They were shooting these really like editorial, cool looking boudoir photography, and here I was still kind of stuck doing the same things that I was doing. And I thought, gosh darn it all. I'm I'm good at my job. I'm going to go look fancy somewhere. I'm going to go shoot somewhere exotic, and my pictures are going to look so incredible and people will be so impressed by me. I just really wanted to impress everybody. So, what did I do? Well, this girl from Anchorage, Alaska, she books a flight back home. And so I had a couple people that had said, yes, ooh, I want to book a session with you when you come to Alaska. I was like, great, wonderful, awesome. And I booked a flight, and I had to bring my baby with me because she was only 6 months old and I was still breastfeeding. And I just could not leave a 6 month old with my husband with the other 3 children. It just felt totally rude. So, and that was like a caveat. You can go, here's the deal. I could go if I could make enough money to pay for my expenses and that I took Truly with us. Me. So, great. But then I get on the plane, and the day I'm on the plane, in on that flight, I have nothing booked. All of the people that had said, because I was a ding dong and I didn't take deposits like at first, all of the people who had raised their hands because they wanted sessions backed out. And there was one that was a maybe. And I thought, oh my gosh. So I sat down on the plane and I went, all right, universe, I have no idea what this trip is going to be, but please make it be exactly what I need right now. And do you know what happened? Well, for one thing, I complained to my dear darling friends the whole time about how crappy my marriage was. I'm sorry, Brian, I did. But I was so miserable and I'm confused. It was then I remember when we'd had a conversation, a very emotional conversation soon before I left, where he said the big, I don't care what you do. And I was like, what? What does that mean? Dude, does he not understand? Oh, I was just beside myself with so much hurt and pride and it's ridiculous. So I spend the time feeling so wronged and upset and miserable, but not wanting is like I don't want to get divorced. I don't want to end. Like I want to stay together, but how do we fix this thing that feels so broken inside? So totally, I felt like my heart had been ripped out of me. And I was just walking around showing it, like, look at my broken heart. Do you see this? Do you see my broken heart? Oh my gosh. It hurts so bad. And I got to stay with a woman who, my best friend's mom. And then I stayed with my mentor, who had been a mentor to me since I was in high school. And and then I actually got to stay with my best friend. And through those times, so I'd been there for, oh, I don't know, 6 days or so. And I was up on the mountain on the hillside where I grew up. And I was driving with Truly in the back seat. We were just kind of going for a little adventure one of those days. And I was driving down, looking out at the Alaska, the inlet out across Anchorage, seeing the Alaska Range. It was so beautiful, a scene that I grew up looking at all the time. And all of a sudden, like a freight train, like a wall, hit me so hard. The realization, you know what I had been aching for, desperate for, needing? My big transition, my big life calling. Get ready, girls. I wanted to be a mom. I already had 4 kids and I wanted to be a mom. All of a sudden, I realized all of the best of me was going out to total strangers. Yeah, they liked what I could do for them and they let me feel really good like, "Oh, great job. I love what your work. I love working with you. You're so nice." But I mean, yeah, they'd maybe remember me if they stayed married, which sadly, like half my clients all got divorced, and that was so sad to see. And it was funny because it makes you kind of feel like, did I do something wrong? It's like, no, you just took the pictures. Anyway, the world is screwed up, and let's try fixing it. And here's a place to do so. I just realized that my family were getting the crumbs. They were getting I was getting the crumbs. I was getting the crumbs of my life. I was so flippin' worried about freaking strangers and what they would think of me. And if they thought I was, if they thought I was living up to my true potential, that I had minimized motherhood so much. Did you know I wanted to start a talk show where I got to interview women who are really making a difference in the world, girls, not these soccer moms driving their kids A to B, Z to F and making Chef Boyardee rice-a-roni for their families. Oh, those soccer moms. That was like the biggest swear word you could say to me. Like if someone called me a soccer mom. I remember my agent actually said that I was the mom of moms. And like if you need a mom, they would call me for in the casting. And I was like, oh, I mean, I do have quite a few children at this point, so I get that, but I don't really feel the mom energy. I'm not feeling it. No, I wasn't feeling it because I wasn't living in it. I was so estranged. I was so plucked out of my motherhood. I was so in my masculine that often I acted like a man. I acted like a man misbehaving, behaving poorly. I was a jerk face. And man, I mean, I was nice to clients, okay? But the rest, like everybody else, just got the crumbs. So in that moment, we're getting back to Alaska, driving down, looking at this beautiful place, and all of a sudden realizing that you know what the gift of going to Alaska here, my pride brought me to my greatest revelation of self. And this is what Andy talked about in the interview before this about our deep biological need is to come home to our identity as mothers. That is, as women, we are designed to give birth. We are designed to nurture life. We are designed to raise them. Without us, there's nothing. There's no culture. Honest, there is no culture, really, without women. We create the drive in men to give us refinement and culture and nice things and beautiful things. We inspire men. And this is where I'm so excited for this new series of coming home to your marriage because it is learning these principles, these truths that are the great game changers for our lives to get. Why? Because it's the right thing to do? No, because it makes us damn happy. Finally, 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 we can be happy, like truly happy. But we have to learn the principles. We have to unlearn all the crap that's been handed down by the feminist movement and culture at large. So everything begins with the mother. Everything. We shape our children who then shape the future. If we are so fractured and so out of alignment that we raise fractured, disaligned, unaligned. I'm going to say unaligned children. That is the future we're creating, and we are living in it right now. We are living in a fractured, unaligned culture. I'm calling it back. I'm using my power to call back my own power. The strength of my femininity, which is not pretending to be a man, acting like a man, which is grounding myself in my womanhood. So when I came to that realization that I wanted to be a mother, I wanted to quit working. I wanted to let go of my pride and feeling like my only worth was in what I did for other people. And I wanted to experience the richness of motherhood. Like I'd already had 2 home births. And in that, you get rewired when you're able to experience calm, relaxed, natural childbirth with limited interruptions. Your body is able to provide all of the hormones, the bonding hormones that you so desperately need to make sure that you and your baby are bonded. That's why they're called bonding hormones, friends. So I'd already experienced that. And I think within that, I was feeling like the elasticity of me pulling myself away from my children was getting less and less. I couldn't pull myself away anymore, but I didn't understand that it was okay to do that. Did you know that it's okay to stay at home with your kids? Again, what my whole little rant about soccer moms. Yeah, I wanted to have a show where I was interviewing women who were actually really doing things in the world because I wanted to inspire all of the other soccer moms or women who were just kind of like, getting by in life and didn't really push themselves and didn't want to make anything happen in the world. I would say I wanted to inspire them. I did. But honestly, I was embarrassed for them. Like, I'm so embarrassed that you don't have any drive and you're fine just sitting on your butt and driving your kids to soccer. That's so rude. That it was so rude of me. But I wanted to light fire under them and say, like, look, you could do something more with your life. Well, and then I finally got hit over the head with the realization, like, what is so hot about me? Nothing. I am acting like a man. I am miserable, burnt out, so, so caught up in what other people think. And I'm leaving my marriage in the dust. Okay, so I'm going to fast forward. I was so freaking afraid getting on that plane about having this conversation with my husband. I'm like, I don't want to work anymore. But he had said anytime that I was ready to like set it down that I could. But I really want to acknowledge the fact that it was me who pushed my way into that position. It wasn't my husband didn't say, "Kelly, get off your butt. You need to start pulling your weight around the house. You go get a job, woman." He never ever said that. If anything, he would say like, "You're okay? You're okay doing this?" And he was holding on for dear life because I was not a very predictable person. So I just want to give him so much credit for hanging on in that time. And I think I got it out of my system pretty much, as far as the I need to prove myself to the world. Now, there is a struggle with, like, I know I still have some of that wiring and I just want to bring more into the world. And in that, there's a fine line to be walked in. Am I making this because I feel like, even this channel, am I doing this because I feel that if I don't, that I'm not being fully alive? Or that if I don't do it, I'm just quote unquote, going to be a mom and that's not good enough? Because that's culturally, we, I'm not say demonize. We don't demonize moms, but we do look down on them like the janitor. Oh, so what do you do? I'm a stay-at-home mom. Oh, that's nice. Okay, well, boring person right here. Boring person alert. Let me tell you what, stay-at-home moms, if you want to, you can be one of the most cultured persons in your circle because you might actually have time to read a book. You could be the wise woman of your friend group if they're still, working full time and whatnot, because you have time to actually be present and calm. You're not holding all of the financial stress or zipping from one place to another, acting like a crazy person. Like, yeah, we we get to change the idea of what a stay-at-home mom or even just a housewife, because that's great too. That's wonderful too. And I'll tell you why in just a minute. It is how we reflect value back to those roles. And once we begin demanding it of our men, of each, well, we can't demand it of each other, but we can certainly be the example and say, no, I'm not, no, I'm not going to work. I am going to stay home. A lot of responsibility comes with that when you get to stay home. And that means in your spending and whatnot, realizing that you're down to one income. Again, we'll get more into that in this incredible section that we're about to open up of A Heart Called Home to Your Marriage. I'm so excited for it because guess what? I came home from Alaska. I had that hard conversation with my husband, and he looked at me and went, "Okay, all right. Can you give me 2 months?" I said, "You bet." And so I slowly began to transition more into mothering. And in 2 months, I was full-time momming. Now, I think this was the biggest shift after that one, after that realization that I had of, oh my gosh, actually, I really want to be a mom. The next shift was, as I was sitting down in my armchair, nursing and rocking my little baby, I was looking on my phone for parenting books because I thought, gosh, I feel so out of it. I haven't full-time mommed in like 9 years. I don't know how to do this. I think I suck at this. So I better read some books. And in the search, some recommendations came up, and one was it was a marriage book. It was called The Surrendered Wife. And I went, oh yeah, no. No, thank you. I will pass that one by. Guess what? Spoiler alert, I found it and I read it later and it was incredible. But at the time I wasn't quite ready for that. And I ran across The Proper Care and Feeding of Husbands by Dr. Laura Schlesinger. And it's like, okay, I think I could probably read that. I did, and I cried. Oh my gosh. As I read that, I read it in 2 days and I cried because I did not realize how much I had been living backwards and treating my husband with so much disrespect. I had no idea. So many things that I did were so completely opposite. So, from reading that book, it got me onto other books about marriage, and I didn't realize how much damage I had done to my marriage by living the script. I was living the script, girls. By if I'd talked to any other woman and told her all the things that I was doing, all the ways that I was trying to live right, showing up in the world, being the mom, trying to be a super mom, all of those things, staying fit and attractive and looking good and trying to be, hotsy totsy for my guy, and yet he was not interested in me because I was doing so much backward. I was controlling, I was bossing, I was complaining and grumbling. He couldn't win. He couldn't win with me. And I had so much hurt. Girls, listen to me because I hear you. I hear you. We were there. We have been there. Where you feel like there are just layers and layers of hurt and brokenness on top, and you feel like maybe this can't be saved. I know. And guess what? I'm pretty darn tootin' sure it can be saved because of us, because of all of the things that we've been through. And yet, by learning these principles, learning how to turn it around, did you know? This is what I'm so excited to help to start teaching these things to you, is that once we do the changing within us, and that's the key, we have to change first. No matter how much you think your husband is the problem, girl, it all starts with you. It all started with me. It did. And once I was able to shift, it was like turning a switch on for my husband. It took a couple weeks because he had to actually trust me. Like, why is she acting so different? Why is she complimenting me? Why is she being so nice? Why is she not trying to manipulate me all the time? Maybe this is manipulation, but it's kind of nice. And then he finally started to have a good time. He wanted to hang out with me. He wanted to hug me, snuggle, kiss me. He wanted to come up and put his arms around me when I was in the kitchen cooking or washing the dishes. And he just wanted to be with me, just like when we were dating, which we dated for like a hiccup of a time before we got married. So still, that beautiful honeymoon period of newness in a relationship, it was like that again. It was like magic. And it was once I learned these principles that we're going to dive into over the next several weeks, because this this section that we're going into is, I don't know, it's like the number two thing that you'll ever learn in life is how to work with men, how to understand men, how how to help you create a relationship where you get more of what you want because he's getting more of what he wants. And it doesn't mean sex. It doesn't just mean sex or food. It's totally it's beyond. It's so beyond. So we're going to get into that. But I tell you what, once I had that shift and I started learning these principles, and it took me years because at first, I'll tell you, at first I utilized them probably, not probably, I know, in a manipulative way because I wanted him to act different to me. I wanted him to give me more of what I wanted, but I wasn't fully surrendered to the ideas. I wasn't fully ingesting them. I was using them more as ingesting them. That's not right. They were not fully integrated. And I tell you, once you are living them from your heart instead of just using them as a skill, oh, that's where the real shifts come. That's where the richness. Okay, so where we're going to go from here, girls, is I am going to give you the steps that I firmly believe create the most gorgeous, romantic, spicy relationship that you could possibly handle. One where it is mutually just loving, not just comfortable, but delicious and fireworks. We just celebrated last week 21 years of marriage, and I can't believe we made it that long. But now I know we will make it a whole lot longer, thankfully, because of this work. And I believe in you. I believe in I believe that these principles are able to revitalize almost any relationship. The foundation is first us. It is always us. We are the relationship masters as women. And from that, we create the conditions for our marriage. We do. And I'm going to walk you through that because you might hear that and say, whatever. You don't know who I'm living with. You don't know all the hurt I've been. You have no idea the childhood I had, the scars I have inside or out. You don't know my trauma. I don't have to know that. It doesn't really matter because you can transform. You can heal. You are far more than your bag of bones that you're carrying around with you. And if you think that that is your life sentence to carry around your hurt and your wounding and your garbage that you've been strapped with for however many years, you're wrong. That is not for you to continue. Well, actually, it's your choice, is really what it is. Do you want to stay weighed down, overburdened, exhausted, hurt, unloved, dry? Or do you want life? That is what I have found in this journey. This is why I created this podcast, because I believe that we all deserve to have life, full life. And that starts with our radical self-responsibility. This is my life. I have co-created it to this point. I get to choose what I continue to hold, have, and believe. Who I want to be is my decision. Do I want to be whole, or do I want to have a life sentence of brokenness? No thanks. I want to be whole. I want to be joy-filled. I want to have love radiate from me. That is vibrant life that I choose, and I want my relationship to be rich, to be so loving and nurturing. I want to be adored, and I know how to get it now, when before my husband wouldn't even go on a date with me. Now I have got that turned around, and I am so grateful. But it's still work. It's easy to get lazy. I've been there. But knowing these principles is huge. So you are the author of your life. If you are interested in rewriting your love story, Stay with me as we continue on this series of A Heart Called Home to Your Marriage. If something in today's episode resonated with you and you're feeling a call to go deeper, I'd love to stay connected. I'm beginning to offer whole woman mentorship. This is a one-on-one, intuitive support for women who are ready to realign with themselves, their marriages, and their motherhood. I'm also experimenting with a monthly Whole Woman Circle. It's a live, online, guided women's experience rooted in responsibility, presence, and coming home to yourself. You can learn more, join the community, and explore what's unfolding at wholewomanawakening.com. Until next time, may you feel supported coming home to yourself.